I opened the cream-colored envelope addressed to the Morgan family at my parents' house during Sunday dinner. Inside were 5 embossed invitations to my sister Cassidy's $760,000 destination wedding in Napa Valley. I counted them twice. My parents, my brother Trevor, and his wife. My aunt and uncle. Everyone's name was calligraphed in gold. Everyone except mine. Mom looked up from her salad, met my eyes, and said the words that cracked my heart wide open. "Cassidy thinks you'd ruin her moment, honey. You understand, right?" I sat frozen at the dinner table, the invitation trembling between my fingers. The weight of those words pressed against my chest like a stone. Dad wouldn't make eye contact, suddenly finding his pot roast absolutely fascinating. He cut his meat into smaller and smaller pieces, his jaw tight. Mom set down her fork with a delicate clink and reached across the table like she wanted to pat my hand, but stopped halfway. "Sweetheart, you know how your sister is about her special day? This wedding has a very specific aesthetic, and Cassidy just feels like..." She trailed off, searching for the right words that wouldn't sound as cruel as they were. "Like I don't fit the vision?" I finished for her, my voice barely above a whisper. "Well, I wouldn't put it that way exactly. But that's exactly what she meant." Trevor, my older brother, smirked from across the table. His wife Sarah looked uncomfortable, studying her wine glass like it held the secrets of the universe. "Come on, Dee," Trevor said, using the childhood nickname that now felt like a knife. "You know how Cassidy is about these things. It's her big day. Just let her have it." Let her have it. As if I was the one taking something away. I looked around the table at my family, my people, the ones who were supposed to love me unconditionally. None of them were standing up for me. None of them were saying this was wrong. My mind flashed back through years of moments just like this. Cassidy getting the lead in the school play while I painted sets in the background. Cassidy getting a new car for her 16th birthday while I got a card with $50 inside. Cassidy's college graduation party with 200 guests while mine was a quiet dinner at Olive Garden. Always Cassidy. Always the golden child. But this felt different. This wasn't about favoritism or unequal attention. This was about being erased completely. "So I'm not invited to my own sister's wedding?" I asked, hating how small my voice sounded. "To any of the events? The rehearsal dinner? The bridal shower? Nothing?" Mom's expression shifted into something that looked almost like pity, which somehow made it worse. "Cassidy just thinks it would be easier this way. You're so emotional, Delinda. And honestly, your situation right now isn't exactly." She waved her hand vaguely. "My situation?" I repeated. "You're single. You don't photograph well. You might draw attention away from the bride." Mom listed these reasons like she was reading items off a grocery list. Matter of fact. Final. Each word landed like a physical blow. I'm a middle school art teacher making $42,000 a year, living in a tiny apartment with a roommate and a student loan payment that eats up half my salary. Cassidy is a social media influencer, with 200,000 followers, engaged to Bradley, a tech entrepreneur who drives a Tesla and wears shoes that cost more than my monthly rent. In my family's eyes, I was the failure, the one who didn't shine bright enough. Dad finally spoke, his voice gruff. "It's Cassidy's day, sweetheart. We have to respect her wishes. She's the bride. What she says goes." I felt something shift inside me then. A small crack that had been forming for years suddenly split wide open. "I understand," I said quietly, standing up from the table. My legs felt shaky, but I forced them to hold me. "I need to go." "Don't be dramatic," Trevor muttered. I grabbed my purse and headed for the door. Behind me, I could hear Mom saying something about me being too sensitive, about how I always took things the wrong way, about how I needed to think about someone other than myself for once. I made it to my car before the tears came. I sat in the driveway of my childhood home, watching the warm light spill from the windows, seeing the silhouettes of my family still sitting around that table, probably relieved I'd left without making more of a scene. That's when my phone buzzed. A group text notification lit up the screen. It was from Cassidy, sent to the entire extended family chat. 43 people. The message included photos of bridesmaid dresses in dusty rows, images of the vineyard venue with its rolling hills and sunset views, and a paragraph-long caption that made my stomach turn. Can't wait to celebrate with my whole family. Only 89 days until the best day of my life. Feeling so blessed to have all of you there to witness our love story. Bradley and I are so grateful. This is going to be magical. My whole family. She knew I'd see this. She knew I was in this group chat. This wasn't just exclusion. This was deliberate, public humiliation. The responses started rolling in immediately. So excited. Can't wait, honey. Going to be beautiful. Then Aunt Linda, bless her, typed, will Delinda be there? Haven't heard her RSVP yet. 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. Cassidy was typing. Her response came through. Unfortunately, no, she has other commitments that weekend. But we'll miss her. Other commitments. The lies were so casual, so smooth. She'd taken away my invitation, and now she was rewriting the story, making it seem like I was the one who chose not to come. I watched more responses flood in. Some people asked follow-up questions. Cassidy deflected each one with practiced ease. By the end of the exchange, the narrative was clear. I was too busy, too committed to other things, too absent from family events to make this one work. None of it was true. I sat in that car for 20 minutes, reading and rereading the messages, feeling the humiliation burn through me like acid. Then something shifted. A thought formed that I couldn't shake. I'd been saving money for 5 years. Not much, just a little bit each month, tucked away in an account I never touched. $4,000 total. I'd told myself it was for emergencies, for someday, for when I finally got brave enough to do something big. I pulled up my phone and opened a travel website. My fingers moved before my brain could catch up. I searched for flights to France, to Provence, specifically. The place I'd been dreaming about since I took a French literature class in college and fell in love with the idea of lavender fields and ancient stone villages and a life that felt bigger than the small box I'd been living in. The flights were expensive. The hotels were expensive. The whole thing would wipe out my savings and max out my credit card. I booked it anyway. 2 weeks later, I stood in the middle of a lavender field outside the village of Gourds, and for the first time in months, I could breathe. The flight over had been terrifying. I'd never traveled internationally alone. I'd barely traveled at all. The longest trip I'd ever taken was a weekend in Chicago with college friends 6 years ago. But something about sitting on that plane, watching America disappear beneath the clouds, felt like shedding an old skin. I'd told no one except my best friend Jenna, who'd shown up at my apartment the night before I left, with a bottle of wine and a pep talk. "This is the most incredible thing you've ever done," she'd said, filling my glass to the brim. "Cassidy uninvites you from her wedding, and you go to France? That's not revenge. That's evolution." The bed and breakfast I'd booked was perfect. A converted stone farmhouse with shutters painted the color of the Mediterranean, and a owner named Margot, who spoke English with a thick accent, and insisted I try her homemade apricot jam every morning. My room had exposed wooden beams and a window that looked out over rolling hills. For the first 3 days, I barely did anything. I walked through the village, bought fresh bread and cheese from the market, sat in cafes, and watched people live their lives. Everything felt softer here. The light, the pace, even the air itself. On the 4th day, I put on a white vintage dress I'd bought specifically for this trip. It was simple, cotton, with lace at the hem and sleeves that billowed in the breeze. I'd never worn anything like it at home. It felt too romantic, too impractical. But here, in the golden light of southern France, it felt exactly right. I took my phone out and started taking photos, not for anyone else, just for me. The lavender fields stretching toward the horizon, the stone walls of ancient churches. Myself, reflected in old windows, smiling in a way I hadn't smiled in months. Then I started posting them to Instagram. My account was small, just 300 followers, mostly students and teacher friends from school. The captions were simple, honest, maybe a little petty, but in a way that felt like self-care rather than revenge. Sometimes the best company is your own. Found my Fairytale. No prints required. Turns out I fit the aesthetic just fine. The responses were immediate and overwhelmingly positive. Former students commenting heart emojis. Teacher friends saying, I looked beautiful. A few people asking if I was okay, if everything was all right with my family. I didn't answer those questions. Not yet. On day 5, I met Colin. I was sitting at a cafe in the village square, drinking espresso that was so strong it made my American coffee taste like water, when a man approached my table. He was American. I could tell immediately from the way he carried himself. Mid-30s, dark hair going gray at the temples, expensive camera hanging from his neck. "I'm sorry to bother you," he said, "but I've been watching you take photos all morning, and I have to ask. Are you a photographer?" I laughed. "No, just a tourist with a phone." "Well, you have an incredible eye." He gestured to the empty chair across from me. "Mind if I sit?" "I'm Colin. I'm here on assignment for a travel magazine, and honestly, it's nice to hear another American accent." We talked for 2 hours. He told me about his work, about traveling the world, capturing places and moments for publications I'd actually heard of. I told him about teaching, about my students, about how I'd always wanted to travel but never had the courage until now. I didn't tell him about the wedding, about Cassidy, about why I was really here. "I have an idea," Colin said as the sun started to set, painting the sky in shades of pink and gold. "I'm scouting locations for a shoot tomorrow. Would you let me take some proper photos of you? Professional ones. Consider it a gift. You're already here. You're already dressed like you walked out of a dream. Let me give you something to remember this trip by." I should have been suspicious, should have asked questions, should have wondered why a professional photographer would offer his time for free, but I was lonely, and he was kind, and the idea of having beautiful photos, of documenting this moment when I finally chose myself, felt too good to pass up. "Okay," I said. "Yes." Over the next 3 days, Colin took me to places I never would have found on my own. A chateau on a hillside, with views that stretched for miles. A field of sunflowers so vast and bright it hurt to look at. Ancient churches with stone walls weathered by centuries. Vineyards at sunset, the grapes heavy on the vines. He posed me carefully, adjusted the light, made me laugh until my smile was genuine. He had a gift for making people feel comfortable, for seeing something in them they couldn't see in themselves. The photos were magical. In them, I looked like someone I'd never been before. Confident, beautiful, free. On the evening of day 7, Colin showed me the shots on his camera. We were sitting on the terrace of the bed and breakfast, drinking wine Margot had brought up from her cellar. I scrolled through image after image, barely recognizing myself. "This one," Colin said, stopping on a particular photo. "This is the one. It was me at the chateau, during golden hour. The light was hitting me from behind, creating a halo effect. I was wearing the white lace dress, my hair loose and windblown, laughing at something Colin had said. Behind me, the chateau rose like something out of a storybook. I looked like a bride, not intentionally, but the effect was unmistakable. "Can I have this one?" I asked. "They're all yours," Colin said. "I'll send you the full gallery tonight." I posted the chateau photo that evening. The caption came to me easily, a small act of defiance that felt enormous. My fairytale moment in France, no invitation needed. I closed my phone and went to bed, feeling lighter than I had in years. I woke up 6 hours later to my phone buzzing non-stop. The notifications wouldn't stop. My screen was full of Instagram alerts, text messages, missed calls. At first, I thought something terrible had happened. Someone had died. There was an emergency. Then I opened Instagram and understood. My photo had been reposted by a lifestyle blogger named Amanda Chen, who had 800,000 followers. Her caption read, "This woman was uninvited from her sister's wedding, so she went to France and had her own fairy tale. This is what confidence looks like. This is what choosing yourself looks like. Share this if you've ever felt excluded by your own family." The post had 50,000 shares. My hands started shaking. I scrolled through my own notifications. Someone in my extended family had seen my posts. They'd shared the story anonymously to a popular wedding-shaming forum. The forum post had thousands of comments, and it linked directly to my Instagram account. "Sister excludes her from $760,000 wedding. This is what self-love looks like. Family is toxic. She's better off without them." My follower count was climbing in real time. 300 became 800, became 2,000, became 5,000. My phone rang. Mom. I answered without thinking. Hello? What have you done? Mom's voice was sharp enough to cut glass. Delinda Marie Morgan, what in God's name have you done? I don't know what you mean, I said, but my voice was shaking. Your posts. Your France pictures. Someone shared them everywhere. Everyone is talking about this. Everyone knows you weren't invited to the wedding. Everyone thinks Cassidy is some kind of monster. Do you have any idea how embarrassing this is? I posted photos of my vacation. That's all. Don't play innocent with me. You know exactly what you did. You've made Cassidy's wedding about you. You've humiliated this entire family. Take those posts down right now. No. Silence on the other end. Heavy and dangerous. What did you just say to me? I said no. I'm not taking them down. I went to France. I took photos. I'm allowed to exist, Mom. I'm allowed to be happy. You're ruining your sister's life. I didn't uninvite myself from the wedding. That was her choice. I just made a different choice. Mom's voice went cold. If you don't take those posts down, there will be consequences, serious ones. She hung up. The messages kept coming. Text after text from family members. Trevor calling me pathetic, Dad saying I was being hurtful, Aunt Linda surprisingly supportive, cousins taking sides. The whole family fracturing in real time over social media. Then Cassidy messaged me directly. A long, paragraphs-long text that dripped with venom. You're a selfish, attention-seeking brat. You've always been jealous of me. You couldn't handle not being the center of attention for once in your life, so you had to make my wedding about you. Everyone is talking about this, instead of my special day. You're trying to ruin my life. You're pathetic. You're desperate for validation. I hope you're happy with yourself. I stared at the message until the words blurred. My phone rang again. This time, Jenna. Are you seeing this? She asked, her voice tight with concern. Yeah, I'm seeing it. Delinda, it's everywhere. Like, everywhere. BuzzFeed picked it up. Reddit is going crazy. Twitter is on fire. Your story is viral. I didn't mean for this to happen. I just wanted to feel less alone. I know, but it's happening. And you need to be careful. People are digging into your life. They found Cassidy's Instagram. They're commenting on all her posts. I pulled up Cassidy's account. Her perfect, curated feed of engagement photos and wedding planning updates and sponsored content for skincare products and workout gear. Every single post from the past month had hundreds of new comments. Why did you exclude your sister? You're cruel. She looks happier without you. Imagine being so insecure, you can't even invite your own sister to your wedding. Part of me felt vindicated. Part of me felt sick. Jenna, what do I do? I don't know, babe, but whatever happens, I'm here, okay? I'm here. We hung up. I sat on the terrace in the early morning light, watching the sun rise over the lavender fields, and wondered how everything had spiraled so far out of control. Colin appeared at breakfast, looking uncomfortable. We sat across from each other with croissants and coffee, and he wouldn't quite meet my eyes. I need to tell you something, he finally said. My stomach dropped. I'm supposed to photograph a wedding in California next month. Your sister's wedding. Cassidy Morgan, right? Small world. The croissant turned to ash in my mouth. You knew? My voice came out strangled. I recognized you. From her Instagram. When we met that first day, she posts about wedding planning constantly, and the photography company I work for was contracted by Bradley's family 3 months ago. I've been looking at mood boards with your sister's face on them for weeks. And you didn't think to mention this? I didn't think it mattered. I thought we were just taking some photos. I didn't know your story. I didn't know about the exclusion until last night when the whole thing went viral. Delinda, I swear, I wasn't trying to deceive you. But you did deceive me. I stood up from the table. You let me trust you. You took those photos. You knew who I was the whole time. And you said nothing. I'm sorry. I really am. But now this is complicated. Bradley's family is threatening to sue my company. They're saying I'm involved in some kind of conspiracy to sabotage their wedding. My boss is furious. My professional reputation is on the line. So this is about your career. That's not what I'm saying. It's exactly what you're saying. I left the terrace and went back to my room. I sat on the bed and cried for the first time since arriving in France. Everything I'd built here, the peace I'd found, was contaminated now. Even my escape, was tangled up in Cassidy's web. I booked a flight home for the next day. The flight home was a nightmare. No sleep. Just me and my phone, and 23 hours of watching my life fall apart in real time. The viral post had reached 200,000 shares. News outlets were writing articles, "Woman excluded from sister's wedding takes ultimate revenge trip to France." The headlines made it sound calculated, like I'd planned the whole thing, like I'd manipulated the internet into caring about my pain. People I went to high school with were commenting. Former students were messaging me. Teachers from my school were seeing the story. My principal had sent 3 emails asking me to call him immediately. By the time I landed at San Francisco International Airport, the story had reached 500,000 shares. I took an Uber home to my apartment in Oakland. The driver recognized me from the photos. "You're that girl," he said, glancing at me in the rearview mirror. "The France wedding girl." I tipped him in cash and ran inside. My roommate Beth was waiting in the living room. "Your mom called here 4 times. She sounds really angry." "She is really angry. Are you okay?" I shook my head. No words. The legal letter arrived 2 days later, certified mail. My hands shook as I signed for it. Cassidy Morgan and Bradley Patterson were threatening to sue me for defamation and intentional infliction of emotional distress. According to their lawyer, my social media posts and the resulting viral story had caused Cassidy severe mental anguish and damaged her brand and reputation as an influencer. They were demanding a public apology and $10,000 in damages. $10,000. I had negative money in my bank account. The France trip had maxed out my credit card and emptied my savings. I had $37 until my next paycheck. I couldn't afford a lawyer. I couldn't afford anything. My phone rang. The school. "Delinda, this is Principal Morrison. We need to talk." I went in the next morning. Sat in his office like a student called to detention. Principal Morrison was usually kind, fatherly, but today his face was stern. "We've received complaints from several parents," he said, folding his hands on his desk. "They're saying your personal drama reflects poorly on the school. They're concerned about your judgment, about whether you're fit to teach their children." I took a vacation. I posted photos. "You created a media circus. Your name is all over the internet. Our school's name is now associated with this story. We have parents threatening to pull their kids from your classes." My throat closed up. Teaching was all I had. My students were everything to me. "I'm not firing you," Principal Morrison continued, "but I'm putting you on observation. Any more controversy, any more attention, and we'll have to reconsider your position here. Do you understand?" "Yes. Keep your personal life private from now on, please." I drove home in a daze. Stopped at a red light and watched a woman crossing the street with her daughter, both of them laughing about something. Normal life, simple life, everything I didn't have anymore. Mom left a voicemail while I was driving. I listened to it in my apartment parking lot. "If you don't fix this, don't bother coming to any family events ever again. You've chosen your pride over your family. You've embarrassed us all. Cassidy is a wreck. She can barely get out of bed. She's talking about canceling the wedding. I hope you're satisfied. I hope this was worth it." I deleted the voicemail and went inside. The online attention had turned. The initial wave of support was shifting. New articles were being published with different angles. Viral excluded sister. Victim or villain? Think pieces about social media manipulation. Posts questioning whether I'd staged the whole thing for attention. Comments on my Instagram were becoming hostile. "She's milking this for followers. Probably lying about the whole thing. Attention seeker. Her sister probably had a good reason to exclude her." I turned off my phone and lay on my bedroom floor and stared at the ceiling and wondered if I'd made the worst mistake of my life. Days passed. A week. The anxiety attacks started. I couldn't sleep, couldn't eat. Went to work and taught my classes on autopilot, terrified of saying the wrong thing, of doing anything that might bring more attention. Cassidy gave an interview to a popular wedding blog. The article published with photos of her looking tearful and vulnerable, a complete contrast to her usual Instagram perfection. In the interview, she played the victim beautifully. "My sister has always been jealous of me," she said. "Ever since we were kids. I've tried to include her in my life, but she makes everything about her. This France thing is just another example of her trying to sabotage my happiness. I'm heartbroken. This was supposed to be the happiest time of my life, and she's turned it into a nightmare." The interviewer asked about the exclusion. Cassidy had her answer ready. "I didn't exclude her. There was a miscommunication about the invitations. She took it the wrong way and ran with it. She's always been dramatic. I've reached out multiple times to try to fix things, but she won't respond. At this point, I just want to move on and focus on my wedding and my future husband." All lies, every single word. But people believed her. The narrative shifted further. I became the villain, the jealous sister, the attention seeker who weaponized social media to hurt her family. I stopped looking at the comments, stopped reading the articles, tried to make myself small and invisible, and hoped it would all go away. Then the anonymous email arrived. Subject line: "You need to see this." No message in the body, just attachments, screenshots of text messages. I almost deleted it. Probably spam. Probably someone trying to hack my accounts or mess with me further. But something made me open them. The messages were between Cassidy and Bradley. From 6 months ago. Before the engagement announcement. Before the wedding planning started. Cassidy: "I'm not inviting Delinda to the wedding. She's gained weight since Christmas and won't fit the aesthetic I'm going for. Plus, she's so broke she'll make our whole event look cheap. Can you imagine her showing up in some Target dress?" Bradley: "Your family will be upset." Cassidy: "I'll handle it. I'll blame it on Mom. Say Mom suggested it for space reasons. They'll believe me. Delinda always believes the worst about herself anyway. She'll just accept it." Bradley: "What if she makes a scene?" Cassidy: "She won't. She's too scared of confrontation. She'll cry about it to her loser friends and then get over it. She always does." More messages. Cassidy planning how to manipulate the family, how to make it seem like the exclusion was a group decision, how to position herself as the reasonable one, and me as the problem. Cassidy: "Honestly, it'll be better without her there. She brings down the energy of every room she walks into. Depression is so exhausting to be around." Bradley: "Whatever you think is best, babe." Cassidy: "I know it sounds harsh, but this is my day. I've worked so hard for this. I deserve perfection. And Delinda is just not part of that vision." My hands were shaking so hard I almost dropped my phone. The anonymous sender had included a note at the bottom. "I'm a friend of Bradley's cousin. He showed these to me last month thinking they were funny. They're not. They're cruel. You deserve to know the truth. Your sister is not who she pretends to be. I'm sorry this happened to you." I read the messages 5 times, 10 times, until I had them memorized. Everything I'd suspected, everything I'd felt in my gut, was confirmed. The exclusion wasn't about aesthetics or space or miscommunication. It was about cruelty. Pure, calculated cruelty. Cassidy had planned this, manipulated our mother into delivering the news. Counted on me being too weak to fight back. She'd been wrong about that last part. I saved the screenshots, backed them up to 3 different places. Then I sat with them for 3 days, trying to decide what to do. Jenna came over on the 3rd day, took one look at my face, and knew something had changed. "What happened?" I showed her the messages. She read them twice, her expression darkening. "Post them. Right now. She tried to destroy you. She's still trying to destroy you. Fight back. If I post these, it'll get worse. It'll explode again. She deserves it. She deserves to be exposed for who she really is. But do I want to be the person who does that? Do I want to stoop to her level?" Jenna was quiet for a long moment. "That's your call. But you have the truth now. That's power." I looked at the screenshots on my phone. Evidence of malice. Proof that I wasn't crazy, wasn't dramatic, wasn't the villain in this story. But posting them felt like dropping a bomb. and I wasn't sure if I wanted to be responsible for the fallout. The wedding was in 2 weeks. Cassidy's lawyer was relentless, sending letter after letter demanding my compliance. The settlement offer was clear. Issue a public apology admitting I'd misunderstood the situation, acknowledge that I'd caused harm through social media, pay $10,000, and never speak about the situation again. I consulted with a free legal aid clinic. The lawyer there, a tired-looking woman named Patricia, reviewed the case while I sat across from her in a fluorescent-lit office that smelled like old coffee. Legally, they don't have much of a case, Patricia said. You didn't defame her. You posted about your own life. But fighting this will cost money you don't have. They know that. This is intimidation. Pure and simple. So what do I do? Honestly, settle. Apologize. Make it go away. It's not fair, but it's practical. I left her office feeling hollowed out. The truth didn't matter. Justice didn't matter. All that mattered was who had more money, more power, more resources to wage a legal battle. At home, I drafted the apology they wanted. Wrote and rewrote it a dozen times. Each version felt like swallowing glass. I apologize for any harm caused by my social media posts. I misunderstood the wedding invitation situation and should have handled it privately. I never intended to hurt my sister or my family. I take full responsibility for the pain this has caused. The words made me sick, but I was out of options. I was about to post it when my phone rang. Colin. I hadn't spoken to him since France, hadn't wanted to, but something made me answer. Delinda, I know you probably hate me, but I need to tell you something. I'm really not in the mood. I quit the wedding job. I froze. What? I quit. I told my company I couldn't photograph Cassidy's wedding. I couldn't be part of this. What she did to you, what she's doing now with these legal threats, it's wrong. I've been in this industry for 15 years. I've photographed hundreds of weddings. I've dealt with difficult brides, with family drama, with all kinds of situations. But this is different. This is actual cruelty. You didn't have to do that. Yeah, I did. I should have told you the truth from the beginning. I should have had your back. This is me having your back now, even if it's too late. Something in my chest loosened slightly. Thank you. There's more. I've been asking around. I have friends in the wedding vendor network in Napa, and I've heard things about Bradley's family, about the wedding. What kind of things? The tech company Bradley runs? It's under investigation. Some kind of fraud situation. His entrepreneur image is mostly for show. The company's hemorrhaging money. And several vendors for the wedding haven't been paid. Bradley's parents promised to cover costs, but checks are bouncing. The florist pulled out last week. The cake vendor is threatening to do the same. I absorbed this information slowly. The wedding might not happen, or it'll happen, but not the way Cassidy's been planning. Not the $760,000 extravaganza she's been posting about. The whole thing is falling apart behind the scenes. How do you know this? Wedding vendors talk. It's a small industry in certain circles. Word gets around about clients who don't pay their bills. After we hung up, I sat with this new information. Part of me felt vindicated. Part of me felt something darker, something that scared me. Was I happy that Cassidy's perfect wedding was falling apart? Did that make me as cruel as she was? I looked at the apology I'd drafted. Then I looked at the screenshots of Cassidy's text messages. I made a decision. I wasn't going to post the screenshots. That felt too much like revenge, too much like sinking to her level. But I wasn't going to apologize either. I wasn't going to lie and say I'd misunderstood the situation when I had proof that I hadn't. Instead, I wrote something different. Something true. I've been asked to apologize for going to France and posting photos of my trip. I've been threatened with legal action. I've been called names and accused of trying to ruin my sister's wedding. Here's what I want to say. I never wanted this attention. I never wanted any of this to go viral. I just wanted to feel valued. I just wanted to take up space in the world without apologizing for it. I'm sorry if my joy made others uncomfortable. I'm sorry if my existence outside of the family narrative was inconvenient. But I'm not sorry for going to France. I'm not sorry for sharing my happiness. And I won't apologize for refusing to disappear just because someone wants me to. Everyone deserves to feel beautiful. Everyone deserves to take up space. I'm done shrinking myself to make others comfortable. I posted it before I could talk myself out of it. The response was immediate. The post went viral again, but this time, the tide had fully turned in my favor. People shared it with captions like, "This is what self-respect looks like," and "She's not backing down." Comments flooded in. "Don't you Dari apologize? Your sister sounds toxic." This is the kind of boundary setting we all need to learn. Within hours, it had 100,000 likes. 200,000. The story was picked up by major outlets again, but this time with different headlines. Excluded sister refuses to apologize, sets boundaries instead. My family's reaction was predictably explosive. But I'd turned off notifications from their numbers. I didn't want to hear it anymore. What I didn't expect was what happened next. The wedding blog that had published Cassidy's victim interview pulled the article. They issued a statement saying they'd been given incomplete information and apologized for contributing to a one-sided narrative. Someone had sent them the screenshots of Cassidy's text messages. The anonymous sender had done what I couldn't bring myself to do. Within 24 hours, the screenshots were everywhere. Reddit, Twitter, Facebook, every wedding-shaming forum on the internet. People were dissecting them, analyzing them, expressing outrage over Cassidy's calculated cruelty. My phone rang. "Mom." I answered this time. "Did you leak those messages?" Her voice was tight. "No, but I'm not sorry they're out there. This is destroying your sister. She's having panic attacks. She can't eat. She's talking about canceling the wedding." "Good." "Delinda." "Mom, did you read what she said about me? Did you see how she manipulated you? How she planned all of this?" Silence. "She lied to you," I continued. "She used you to hurt me, and you let her. You've always let her. I don't know what you want me to say. I want you to say you're sorry. I want you to acknowledge that this was wrong, that I didn't deserve any of this." More silence. Then, quietly, "I need to go check on your sister." She hung up. I sat in my apartment and felt nothing. No satisfaction, no vindication, just emptiness. The wedding was in 10 days. The screenshots changed everything. Cassidy's Instagram comments became vicious. She started deleting posts, then made her account private. The wedding blog community turned on her. Influencer gossip accounts posted about her. Her sponsor partnership started falling away. Bradley's family's financial troubles became public knowledge. Articles appeared about the fraud investigation. The wedding vendors who hadn't been paid started speaking out, posting on their own social media about bounced checks and broken promises. The $760,000 wedding was publicly falling apart. I should have felt triumphant. Instead, I felt exhausted. The legal threats stopped. Cassidy's lawyer quietly withdrew. I assumed it was because they realized they had no case, or because Cassidy couldn't afford to pay for a prolonged legal battle, or because she had bigger problems now. My principal called me in again. This time, his tone was different. "The parent complaints have stopped," he said. "Actually, we've received several messages of support for you. Parents saying they admire your strength. Students asking when you'll be back to teach." "I think this has blown over." "Thank you," I said. "But Delinda, for your own well-being, I'd suggest taking a step back from social media for a while. This has been a lot." He was right. It had been a lot. More than I could process. At home, I finally allowed myself to look at the screenshots again. Really look at them. See the words Cassidy had written about me. The casual cruelty. The certainty that I was too weak to fight back. She always believes the worst about herself anyway. That line gutted me. Because it was true. Or it had been true. I'd spent my whole life believing I wasn't enough. Wasn't pretty enough, successful enough, interesting enough. I'd made myself small because I thought that's what I deserved. But France had changed something. And this whole nightmare had changed something more. I didn't believe the worst about myself anymore. My phone buzzed. A text from Dad. The first time he'd reached out directly in weeks. "Can we talk? Just you and me?" We met at a diner near his office. He looked older than I remembered, tired lines around his eyes. "I read the messages," he said, once we'd ordered coffee. "The ones between Cassidy and Bradley. Okay, I'm ashamed. Of myself, of how I handled this, of how I let your mother and Cassidy treat you. His voice cracked. You're my daughter. I should have protected you. I should have said something that night at dinner. I should have told Cassidy that excluding you was unacceptable. But I didn't. I took the easy road, and I'm sorry. I'd imagined this apology so many times, practiced my response. But now that it was happening, I didn't know what to say. Why didn't you? I finally asked. Why didn't you stand up for me? Because standing up to Cassidy means dealing with her tantrums, means your mother getting upset, means disrupting the peace. And I've always chosen peace over what's right. He looked down at his coffee cup. That's a cowardly way to live. And I'm sorry you paid the price for my cowardice. I felt tears building but pushed them back. What now? Now I do better. Now I actually be your father, instead of just going through the motions. He reached across the table, took my hand. I love you, Delinda. I'm proud of you. Not just for going to France, but for standing up for yourself, for refusing to disappear. You're braver than I've ever been. The tears came then. I couldn't stop them. Your mom is still processing all this, Dad continued. She's having a hard time accepting that Cassidy was wrong, but she'll come around. Give her time. And Cassidy? I don't know. The wedding is in 8 days. Things are chaotic. But that's not your responsibility. You've done nothing wrong. I need you to hear that and believe it. We sat in that diner for 2 hours, talked about things we'd never talked about. My childhood, his regrets, the ways we'd both failed each other, and the ways we could do better. When we left, he hugged me tight. I'm here now, he said. I'm not going anywhere. Over the next few days, more family members reached out. Trevor sent a long text admitting he'd been a terrible brother, that he'd always known Cassidy was favored but had never said anything because it benefited him too. Aunt Linda called to say she was proud of me. Cousins I hadn't heard from in years sent messages of support. The family was fracturing along new lines. Some people were firmly Team Cassidy, insisting she was the victim of internet mob mentality. Others were Team Delinda, saying this was long overdue. Most were somewhere in the middle, uncomfortable with the whole situation but finally seeing dynamics they'd ignored for years. I stayed quiet through all of it, posted nothing new on social media, went to work, saw my students, tried to rebuild some sense of normalcy. Colin checked in regularly. We'd become unlikely friends through all this. He sent me photos from other projects, asked about my students, never pushed for more than I was willing to give. How are you holding up? He asked during one call. I don't know. Better, maybe? Or just numb? I can't tell the difference anymore. For what it's worth, I think you handled this with more grace than most people would have. I didn't handle anything. Things just happened to me, and I reacted. That's not true. You set boundaries. You refused to apologize for existing. That takes real strength. Maybe he was right. Maybe I was stronger than I thought. The wedding was in 4 days. 3 days. 2 days. I waited. I didn't know what I was waiting for, but I waited. The wedding day arrived. Saturday. Perfect weather in Napa Valley. 75 degrees, clear skies, golden light. I wasn't there, obviously, but the internet was watching. Multiple guests at the wedding were posting updates to social media, some genuinely, others clearly enjoying the drama. Wedding shaming forums had live threads going. People I'd never met were narrating my sister's wedding in real time. It started going wrong at 10 in the morning. First post, florist is a no-show, bride is freaking out, staff scrambling to find alternatives. Second post. Heard the cake got downgraded? Supposed to be 5 tiers? Only 3 arrived? Third post. Someone said the venue is threatening to shut down the reception if they don't receive payment? This is wild. I told myself not to look, told myself to be the bigger person, told myself to spend the day doing anything other than watching my sister's wedding implode. I looked anyway. I couldn't help it. The florist hadn't shown up because their invoice, due 2 weeks prior, had never been paid. The cake company had delivered a smaller, less elaborate version because the custom design hadn't been paid for. The venue manager was in tense negotiations with Bradley's parents about the outstanding balance. Guests started posting photos, not the gorgeous, curated images Cassidy had planned, but candid shots of chaos, the ceremony area with minimal decorations, the reception tables with simple centerpieces clearly thrown together at the last minute. Cassidy in her $15,000 dress looking stressed and tear-stained. One guest posted a video. In it, you could hear raised voices, Bradley's father arguing with someone about payments, Cassidy crying that this wasn't how it was supposed to be, Bradley looking shell-shocked. Another post. Bride just had a complete meltdown in front of everyone, screaming at her fiancé about money. This is so uncomfortable. The updates kept coming. Half the guests left before dinner. The band showed up but refused to play until they received a check. The photographer, Colin's replacement, packed up early after his payment didn't clear. By evening, the threads had thousands of comments, people dissecting every detail, comparing Cassidy's polished Instagram posts from the past year to the reality of what was actually happening. I felt sick watching it. Not because I was sad for Cassidy, but because I felt something darker, something I wasn't proud of. I felt glad, vindicated, like maybe this was cosmic justice. And that scared me. That wasn't who I wanted to be. I closed my laptop and went for a walk. Tried to clear my head. Tried to figure out how I felt about all of this. When I got back, my phone was ringing. Mom. I almost didn't answer. But something made me pick up. Delinda. Her voice was thick with tears. Can I come over? I need to talk to you. Okay. She arrived 20 minutes later. I'd never seen her look so worn down. Her makeup was smudged. Her hands were shaking. We sat on my couch, an awkward distance between us. I went to the wedding, Mom said. It was awful. Everything fell apart. Cassidy was hysterical. Bradley's family was arguing about money. Guests were leaving. It was humiliating. I'm sorry you had to see that. Are you sorry? I thought about lying, about saying the right thing, but I was done lying. Honestly, I don't know. Part of me is sorry anyone had to go through that. Part of me thinks she brought this on herself. Mom nodded slowly. You're not wrong. I looked at her, surprised. During all the chaos today, Cassidy said something to me. Something cruel, in front of everyone. Mom's voice cracked. She blamed me for everything. Said I'd ruined her wedding by not controlling you. That I was a terrible mother. That I'd never done anything right. Mom. And I realized something. She talks to me the same way she talks about you in those text messages, with that same contempt, that same certainty that we exist to serve her needs. Mom wiped her eyes. I've been enabling her for years, making excuses, believing her version of events over everyone else's. I prioritized keeping her happy over treating you fairly, and I'm ashamed. Why are you telling me this now? Because you were right, about everything. Cassidy manipulated me. She lied to me. She used me as a weapon against you. And I let her do it because it was easier than admitting my daughter is capable of cruelty. Mom reached for my hand. I'm sorry, Delinda. I'm so sorry. You deserved better from me. You've always deserved better. The tears came hard, for both of us. Years of pain and resentment and hurt pouring out. I don't know how to fix this, Mom said. I don't know how to undo the damage. But I want to try, if you'll let me. I need boundaries, I said. Real ones. I need you to stop defending Cassidy when she's wrong. I need you to hear me when I tell you something hurts. I need you to treat us equally. I can do that. I will do that. And I need time. This won't heal overnight. I understand. We sat there for a long time. Not quite reconciled, but somewhere closer than we'd been in years. Dad called later that evening. Then Trevor. Both of them apologetic. Both of them having had their own revelations about family dynamics and their roles in them. Cassidy called too. I let it go to voicemail. I wasn't ready for that conversation yet. Might never be ready. The voicemail was short. Her voice small and broken, in a way I'd never heard. I'm sorry. I know I don't deserve your forgiveness. I know I've been terrible. To you, to everyone. I don't expect you to call back. I just wanted you to know I'm sorry. I saved the voicemail but didn't respond. Maybe someday I would. But not today. 3 months passed. The internet moved on to other dramas, other stories. My follower count stabilized at 20,000, mostly people who'd been touched by the story and stayed for the art content I started posting. Photos of my students' work, paintings I was doing in my spare time, quotes about self-worth and boundaries. I started seeing a therapist, worked through years of feeling like I wasn't enough. Started understanding that my family's dysfunction wasn't my fault. Started learning how to set boundaries without guilt. Mom and Dad came to my apartment once a week for dinner. We were rebuilding slowly. Some weeks were good, full of laughter and real conversation. Some weeks were hard, old patterns trying to reassert themselves. But we were trying. That counted for something. Trevor and I met for coffee occasionally. He was working on his own stuff, going to therapy too, figuring out how being the golden child had damaged him in different ways. I hadn't seen Cassidy. She and Bradley were still together, though the marriage was rocky according to family gossip. Her Instagram following had dropped to 60,000. Several brand partnerships had ended. She'd posted a few vague apology posts about learning and growing, but never addressed what happened directly. I didn't need her to. Her apology, her growth, her journey wasn't about me anymore. Colin and I met up when he was in the Bay Area for work. He'd become a genuine friend, someone who checked in, who celebrated my small victories, who understood what it meant to choose yourself after years of making yourself small. "You seem different," he said, over coffee, one Saturday. "Lighter. I feel different. I'm not carrying everyone else's shame anymore." "Good. You never should have been." My principal called me into his office in early December. I went in nervous, expecting bad news. "I wanted to let you know that several parents have written letters about you," Principal Morrison said. "Positive ones, saying you're one of the best teachers their children have ever had. That you inspire them. That you teach them more than just art." I felt tears prick my eyes. "I know this year has been hard on you. The attention, the controversy, all of it. But your students love you. And you're exactly the kind of teacher we want here. I wanted you to know that." "Thank you," I whispered. My students threw me a surprise birthday party in late December. They'd organized it themselves, bought a cake with their own money, made cards that said things like, "You taught me it's okay to take up space," and "Thank you for showing us what strength looks like." I cried in front of them, didn't try to hide it. "Is it happy crying or sad crying?" one of my 7th graders asked. "Very happy crying." I started planning another trip, this time to Italy, not running away from anything, but running toward something, toward the life I wanted, the life I was finally brave enough to claim. I posted about the trip on Instagram. Just a simple announcement, planning my next adventure, Italy in the spring, can't wait. The responses were overwhelmingly supportive, people sharing their own stories of choosing themselves, of setting boundaries, of refusing to disappear just because someone wanted them to. On Christmas Eve, my family gathered at my parents' house. Everyone except Cassidy, who'd sent a text saying she wasn't ready to see everyone yet. Part of me was relieved. Part of me felt sad. Mostly I felt okay with not knowing how to feel. We ate dinner, exchanged gifts, talked about work and plans and normal things. For the first time in years, I didn't feel like the outsider. Didn't feel like I was taking up space I hadn't earned. After dinner, Mom pulled me aside, handed me an envelope. Inside was a check for $4,000. "I know money doesn't fix anything," she said. "But you used your savings to go to France, to choose yourself. And I want to support that. This is for Italy, or for whatever you want. No strings attached." I hugged her tight. "Thank you." "No, thank you. For not giving up on us. For setting boundaries even when it was hard. You've taught me more about strength than I ever taught you." That night, lying in my childhood bedroom, I thought about everything that had happened, the exclusion from the wedding, the impulsive trip to France, the viral photo, the backlash, the screenshots, the lawsuit threats, Cassidy's wedding disaster, the slow, painful family reckoning. All of it had hurt. All of it had been terrible while I was going through it, but all of it had also been necessary. I opened Instagram one last time before bed, posted my favorite photo from France, the one Colin had taken at the chateau. Me in the white dress, golden light, genuinely happy. The caption came easily this time. A year ago, I thought being excluded from my sister's wedding was the worst thing that could happen to me. Today, I know it was the beginning of everything. Sometimes when people leave you out, they're actually setting you free. They're giving you permission to stop making yourself small, to stop apologizing for existing, to stop waiting for an invitation to live your own life. I went to France not because I was trying to get revenge or make a statement. I went because I was tired of putting my life on hold, waiting for other people to decide I was worthy of taking up space. I was tired of believing I needed permission to be happy. This year taught me that boundaries aren't mean, that choosing yourself isn't selfish, that sometimes the people who hurt you the most do you the biggest favor. They show you that you never needed their approval in the first place. So go to France, take the trip, wear the dress, post the photo, live your life out loud. Don't wait for an invitation. You don't need one. You never did. I paused, then added a final thought. I want to hear from you. Have you ever been excluded by family or people you trusted? How did you handle it? Did you ever take that trip or make that choice just for yourself? Drop your story in the comments. Let's celebrate everyone who's chosen themselves, who's refused to disappear, who's learned that they were always enough. And if this story resonated with you, if it made you think about your own boundaries and worth, I'd be grateful if you'd like this, share it with someone who needs to hear it, and subscribe to follow more of this journey. Thank you for being here. Thank you for listening. Thank you for reminding me that I'm not alone in this. May you always know your worth. May you always choose yourself. May you always remember that you don't need anyone's invitation to live your life fully and beautifully. I posted it, closed my phone, and went to sleep feeling, for the first time in as long as I could remember, like I was exactly where I was supposed to be. The next morning, I woke up to 3,000 new comments, people sharing their stories, their pain, their triumphs, their own moments of choosing themselves. I read through them slowly, one by one, feeling less alone than I'd ever felt. Someone had commented, "You didn't just go to France, you found yourself there." They were right. I hadn't just gone to France. I'd gone looking for proof that I deserved to exist outside of other people's narratives, that I deserved beauty and joy and space and light. And I'd found it. Not in the lavender fields, or the ancient villages, or the perfect photos. But in the moment, I decided to go. In the moment, I chose myself. In the moment, I stopped waiting for permission and gave it to myself instead. That was my fairy tale, not the one I'd imagined. Better. Because it was real. Because it was mine. Because nobody could ever take it away. I got up, made coffee, and started planning Italy. The invitation I'd been waiting for my whole life had been there all along. I just had to learn to give it to myself.